Do you want a Marvel game universe that brings together all your favourite characters? Do you want it to be developed by the same studio behind Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy? Well, ha! Monkey paw! Instead, you'll get two games that aren't connected to each other. One will have microtransactions and be a kind of cash grab, and the other will be decent, but you'll only be able to play as the most boring member of the group. And then the final nail in the coffin of the Marvel game Square Enix universe will be that they will add new characters to one of the games, but none of them from the other game, even though they did tease it in this scene.
It's incredible.
Lastly, and probably the least, the games will have the most basic names possible, these being
Gardeners of the Galaxy?
and the Marvel Avengers game. Why not call them Marvel Avengers Fall of the Heroes, as they kind of fall and rise again? Or Guardians of the Galaxy Ragtag Chaos, or something, I don't know, just give them a proper name. It's just a bit boring, isn't it? The Batman franchise has Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knights. Today's moment we're remembering about the Square Enix Marvel universe and how it unlimitedly failed and how it could have been maybe the biggest thing in the gaming industry in another timeline. Before that, please give this video a like and subscribe for future mumbles.
Avengers! Assemble.
Let's start with the worst one, Marvel Avengers. We all have our favourites from the MCU and comics. Some are Spider-Man fans, some are Iron Man fans, and some are Hulk fans. There's even some Captain America fans out there, I think. Also, there are some amazing characters like Wanda, Captain Marvel, and so many others we'd like to play as. So what does Square Enix decide? Who will be the driving force for this game? Well, Miss Marvel. Way before the TV show, with the game releasing in 2020 and the show releasing I think 2 years later. It's not long until you can play with the other characters, but it's weird that the main story follows such a I would say maybe niche character and maybe an indie type character at that time at least. There's a following for Miss Marvel. She's a great character in and out, but in 2020 she isn't really a staple. She's kind of at that time feels like a OG Mr. Fantastic copy with the same powers in a completely different story, to the point that they had to change Miss Marvel's powers in the TV show. I would say if it was after the TV show, it would make a lot more sense for them to have this as the main character, because that TV show was a great show, but before it felt like a weird choice for such a independent type character. Not a character that I would say could lead the Avengers, be that S-rank hero, that big money ticket item to sell something, what really this Avengers game needs. Lastly, on the point where I think of Miss Marvel, I don't really think Avengers. It's similar to how I think of Spider-Man, the independent hero.
When are you gonna give a guy authority?
You want forgiveness? Get religion.
I do think maybe in another 3 years after the Marvels and Miss Marvel could become a staple, that S rank to sell a massive franchise on her back. But in 2020, it didn't feel like that, and a lot of people were confused of really who Miss Marvel was. They needed more of a staple to lead a game like this. Maybe not even have a single main character, be even more of a fluid game that goes through different characters' story rather than that focus on Miss Marvel. Then we get the main villain of the game, what also didn't help with it being the floating head Murdoch. The literal character that they made a weird robot chicken parody show, what failed after one season because he's a floating head. If you're looking through a list of villains who could go against the Avengers to hook that Marvel audience to that gamer, that Marvel nerd, you don't go floating head. You never go full floating head. It feels like if the MCU is made by Sony, maybe the first Avengers maybe villain, or maybe second, give Sony a little bit of credit, would have been Murdoch.
Hello, my dear.
Really, it felt like a terrible choice for the story, and then first hours are meant to hook you felt like a slog of a game. And before we get into the giant man in the room, why the hell wasn't there any mutants like Scarlet Witch in this game? Why not have characters like Vision, Ant-Man, so many characters that became popular, just set out for reasons, I think. Then we got Spider-Man, and look at this train wreck. Not even Spider-Man could fix this, it was that bad. There is a reason we didn't see characters like Captain Marvel, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, as they all have moves that are arguably a bit too complex and less smashy. There is a possibility that these characters could have worked more like Iron Man, but there's a reason why we got 2 Hawkeyes, another Thor, 2 Super Soldiers as DLC, and not Ant-Man, Wasp, Captain Marvel, and Scarlet Witch. If the story didn't sell you on this game, the gameplay definitely won't. And through the last couple of years of this game being released, you've probably heard an ooh and ah about this story, so we'll quickly run through it.
This feels weird. This feels wrong.
To start off, we need to talk about the dirty word, microtransactions.
Language.
The first gameplay mistake was making this game not free to play. With the amount of money you had to put into and unlock different skins was crazy for a long time. If you didn't want to spend money, there was a lot of grinding to unlock anything. This mixed with a battle pass for each character is really a recipe for a Thanos-sized disaster. Then the hope-flavoured icing on this off-putting cake was the gameplay. A lot of games out there do now have that game's service, and some are massively successful. Look at Destiny 2 and Fortnite. They're games you can put hours in and still be playing hours later. I know, I have been there. This mostly due to one of them being a massive competitive game and the other being satisfying, having good DLC and enemy types and a loot system. The Avengers game had none of this. After you get through the OK campaign, you get to the end game, pun intended, where you're meant to make this game your everyday buddy. The game you want to sit back and play if you just want to play without thinking. For example, mine is currently Call of Duty. The Avengers game's endgame had a kind of mindless play, just killing waves after waves of the same enemies and bosses. There was nothing to hook you to make you come back. It all became quickly repetitive and not really that fun. The only difference that kind of broke this up was the heroes, but really the changes between heroes are lessened by the cookie cutter loot system. If I want to look like Joe Fix-It, I don't want to grind robots for hours and hours. I want to do something gangster, like a gangster side quest, kind of like Spider-Man. Speaking of Spider-Man games, they did have something that made you feel like Spider-Man. The Marvel Avengers games makes you feel like Agent Bob. After all the negativity, let's have a look at how this game could have been good. And let's start this by looking at the story.
And ponder the question, what if?
This game should have worked as the first stepping stone in creating that Square Enix Marvel gaming universe. So what changes could have been made to create this? We aren't taking out Miss Marvel, but we aren't keeping her in the main driving seat. In this version, Miss Marvel's already been part of the Avengers for say 4 years, making her an established member of the Avengers. With the mainstays of this game being Captain America, Iron Man, She-Hulk because Hulk is off-world, we'll get back to that, Hawkeye, Black Widow and Wolverine. Also, instead of Thor, we have Lady Thor. The main reason for this kind of mixed bag of nuts is because it's kind of as far away as possible from the first Marvel Avengers. The cast of the game was Black Widow, Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, Miss Marvel and Thor. Apart from Miss Marvel, we look at these and just think of the film. Yeah, we should kind of do that, but we shouldn't at the same time. Changing the group up, like throwing in a Wolverine, a Lady Thor or a She-Hulk, will have that star power but also take you away from the film. Having originals like Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow and Hawkeye to bring that casual film audience in, then bringing in comic favorites will bring in them two audiences and will stop the comparison from the game to the films. Yeah, these have now appeared in the MCU but are mostly still struggling to hold a candle to the originals. At the moment I do think some of these characters will rise above, but that may be another video for another day. With the cast out the way now, let's actually start with the story. Not like I did actually say we were going to start with the story, but we didn't, so we are actually now starting with the story. We're speaking about the story, the possible story of this game. The Marvel Avengers game made Murdoch an A-lister villain, and the Ant-Man movie may do that as well. The main protagonist alongside AIM in the game, when you can use any villain in Marvel Comics, Murdoch shouldn't be the only main villain. The villains of the story will be the Cable, a dark version of the Illuminati, what appeared in Doctor Strange 2, but not a complete comic version of it, a more roughed up version. That includes Doctor Doom as a slight leader, replacing Murdoch in a sense, but Murdoch will also be a member of this group as well as Captain Ross, Taskmaster still, Enchantress, and also to add that X-Men villain in there, Sabretooth. You gotta love Sabretooth. To sum up, the cast of this whole game, villains and heroes, is the Avengers, She-Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, Miss Marvel, Wolverine, Hawkeye, Black Widow and Lady Thor. The Cable, the villains, Doctor Doom, Murdoch, Captain Ross, Taskmaster, Enchantress and Sabretooth. If that doesn't have your nerd senses tingling, you're watching the wrong video. However, if you are interested, the original cast of the Cable is Norman Osborn, Namor, Emma Frost, Doctor Doom, Loki and The Hood. Now I really want to see this in the MCU. Book it, Kevin. Instead of one of those boring starts to a game where we go to Marvel Comic-Con as Miss Marvel to collect comic. Okay, let's start up with the action here. Straight up, Doctor Strange versus the Avengers of Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Thor and Captain America. Iron Man has been locked in his armor by Doctor Doom, but is still able to speak to you, so he will be the kind of voice of a tutorial. We go up against Doctor Doom's henchmen and fight Doctor Doom with all the remaining Avengers. We have not mentioned Black Widow or Wolverine for a reason, what will come later down the line. We beat Doctor Doom and we see him getting taken away, like a really Joker moment at the start of Arkham Asylum. We also have a first look at Iron Man as he's the one escorting him with the guards. So this is where we get that graphic. We see the titles overlooking Avengers Tower. Cue member of Avengers Tower discussing Doctor Doom and how he hacked into Stark's tech. And then we get an alert that makes us go to Latvia, Doctor Doom's kind of country. After the arrested Doctor Doom, Latvia has a massive power vacuum and needs help. But that's not all. 2 wild beasts have also been destroying towns in Latvia, and it's suggested that these were past experiments of Doctor Doom. Captain America, She-Hulk and Iron Man are set for this mission. With you starting with Captain America with Iron Man Air Support, with them saying that S.H.I.E.L.D. is dealing with Doctor Doom's mess with She-Hulk as you go through another tutorial. Couple of jokes here and there like, on your left Cap for a dodge and bet you could do this all day. Fight some gruds and see the destruction of towns as you explore. Then you come across Wolverine and the Avengers already know who Wolverine is, so are surprised to see him in such a destructive state. And this is where we call in She-Hulk for backup. They chase Wolverine to find him fighting Sabretooth. We find out Wolverine has been imprisoned by Doctor Doom for some time, but after his arrest, security was starting to get thin. Bub. We obviously get to fight Sabretooth soon after this. Then there's confusion among the Avengers of why Wolverine was captured. Lady Thor is called to Asgard, and She-Hulk goes to see a distress signal in the desert from the Hulk. Hawkeye goes with She-Hulk, leaving Miss Marvel, Cap, Iron Man, Wolverine at home base, trying to figure out what is happening. The Avengers lead to where they need to be, but then a home alarm, what announces an intruder, goes off, what turns out to be Black Widow, who is just about to warn the remaining Avengers as what is going on before she is shot by Taskmaster. We fight Taskmaster and save Black Widow, who tells them that there is a group of villains who have made a deal to take down the Avengers called the Cable. A message comes through from Big Nick himself saying that the riots are in the prison and Doctor Doom could escape. Cue the prison level. But before that we have the She-Hulk and Hawkeye level in the desert when something falls from the sky. But it's not Hulk, it's no other than Abomination, and tanks surround them with General Ross behind the scheme. Then we get to the Asgard level with Lady Thor going against Enchantress and the Destroyer under her control. At the tower, after the prison escape, we have a level where Doctor Doom and Murdoch attack Avengers Tower, revealing a new robot what looks like Iron Man but has Wolverine's adamantium and a healing factor. The tower is destroyed and the fight begins with the remaining Avengers still at home base, but the stronger ones like She-Hulk, Thor are still stuck dealing with their own problems. When this happens you beat Abomination as She-Hulk and Hawkeye, but the boss is on a timer because why not, you need to help with Doctor Doom. Thor however does not defeat Enchantress but instead throws the Destroyer through the Bifrost, with Iron Man having an idea to try control it with the same tech Doctor Doom used against him, ending in a big endgame boss controlling the Destroyer going up against Doctor Doom, who's buffed up by Murdoch's tech and also Enchantress's magic, with him wearing the kind of Iron Man suit clone. Maybe throw in a stage where each character has to do something to defeat Doom, because why not? We're obviously missing a couple of details here, but this would be the general concept of the game's story. The gameplay would be kind of a mix of Lego games where you need to play certain characters to get through certain parts of the levels. Yes, this game would need more years than the others due to massively different areas, characters and bosses, but with that Scrooge McDuck amount of money they wasted on the original game, obviously that they really did not hit that nail on the head. We scrap out the free DLC and loot system for fun unlockables like the Spider-Man game and replace the season pass for paid DLC. And then before we get to the Guardians of the Galaxy, let's talk about the possibilities of DLC. At the end of the Avengers game we get to an end credit scene, because how are we going to have a universe without an end credit scene? And this would be something simple as just a spaceship crashing and, drumroll please, and everybody's favourite tree guy Groot walks out and says, "I am Groot." This setting up the next game in the Square Enix Marvel Universe, Guardians of the Galaxy. We also get some paid DLC in the future where we get to play as Groot. Also, side note, through the story, Enchantress and General Ross are never defeated. Ross is the end game of the Hulk game as Red Hulk, and Enchantress is the main villain in the Thor game. It's all connected, people. After Marvel Avengers, we got Guardians of the Galaxy, the final nail in the coffin of the Square Enix Marvel Universe. Firstly, weirdly, one of the biggest reasons why this game failed was because of the sour taste in a lot of people's mouths of Marvel Avengers Avengers. Even though it was never really connected apart from the Square Enix logo, it was released within the space of a year. Even though in the Guardians of the Galaxy game they did tease the possibility of a crossover in this scene, what we do know now will likely never see what this could have been. Maybe it wasn't meant to be anything, but it gave me the inspiration for this video, so it meant a lot to me. It's weird as well because this game is really great. The biggest fault of the game is the fact that we only play as Star-Lord, maybe the most boring member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Also, if both games are under the same banner of Square Enix, at least make Star-Lord a playable character in Marvel Avengers on the release day of Guardians of the Galaxy to promote this game. Come on, it's writing on the wall. It would be good if we could play as other members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, but story-wise it worked great. There was nothing else wrong with this game apart from that. It really became a quick hidden gem, but this isn't a review. This is the failed Marvel Games Square Enix universe. If I was looking at Guardians of the Galaxy in a possible shared universe, I would have made a completely different game. It feels like after Marvel Avengers, another group of heroes in a game is a bad idea. But I think a game of Hulk in space, a kind of World War Hulk-esque story, would have been a better choice. If you remember, Hulk is in space from our Avengers part of this video, and through the game he meets up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, setting up the actual Guardians of the Galaxy game. In the Guardians of the Galaxy game, Hulk is Bruce Banner, but also is a boss in the game after going on a rampage. And then we have 3 games in the Square Enix universe. We have Marvel Avengers, Hulk, and then Guardians of the Galaxy. Also, that sour taste is lessened, as there would be 3 years between both Guardians of the Galaxy game and the Marvel Avengers game. Because it was released so close together, everyone thought the Guardians of the Galaxy game was going to be bad and full of microtransactions, but instead full on kicked ass with that soundtrack, and it was a really good story and it had some amazing gameplay. And with that, we hammer in the final nail, the Square Enix Marvel universe. We looked at the possible timeline where Square Enix made some great games rather than tripped at the first hurdle. We do have Insomniac Marvel games coming out with Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. Maybe we could get an Insomniac Marvel universe with Avengers, Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy down the line. Personally, I just want a Daredevil and Ghost Rider game from them. And with that little hope bomb into the Marvel multiverse, that's it for this mumble. If you like this kind of video, please give this video a like and subscribe. I could do a full-blown phase 1 of the video game possible universe in the future. And that's it for this mumble. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next mumble.